Welcome to this explainer on personal leadership. Today, we're diving into a pretty fascinating concept. It's the idea that true professional competence actually begins with an intense journey inward. We usually think of career success as something we achieve outwardly, right? Getting the promotion, hitting the numbers. But the actual foundational pillars of your professional life are built quietly inside your own mind.
So let's jump right in. What instantly pops into your head when you hear terms like service culture or leadership? I really want to challenge your immediate assumptions here about what makes someone a highly competent professional. You might be picturing someone with a very specific, highly technical skill set giving orders. But honestly, that picture is quickly becoming outdated.
In the modern workplace, a massive paradigm shift has occurred. Technical skills have literally taken second place. So what's in first place now? It's your ability to learn on the job. Organizations today prioritize adaptability, social skills, and most importantly, self-awareness. Specific software or procedures can always be taught, but your capacity to manage yourself, that is what dictates long-term success.
Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll cover 1. The modern workplace shift. 2. Defining true self-awareness. 3. The Johari Window framework. 4. The power of self-regulation. 5. Practicing active self-regulation. And 6. Unlocking your leadership potential. Let's move right into Section 2, Defining True Self-Awareness. It's time for a quick self-audit. Are you actually self-aware? Think about your everyday interactions. During a conversation, do you actively listen to others, or do you do a whole lot of talking? We often think we're participating in a deep dialogue, when really we're just politely waiting for our turn to speak. Recognizing which side of the fence you fall on is the absolute first step inward. Let's dig just a little deeper. Do you ask others how they feel about situations, or do you kind of just make assumptions based on your own feelings? And here's a really tough one for a lot of us. Can you admit when you're wrong and actually apologize? Or is it always somehow someone else's fault? Your honest answers here reveal a lot about your emotional intelligence. To give this some academic weight, let's look at how psychology actually explains this awareness. You know, Jean Piaget's famous theory suggested that growing up strictly dictates our ability to understand the world, assuming we just hit mental milestones at specific ages. But modern analysis by Andreas Demetrio offers a much sharper view. He shows that our self-awareness isn't just about age. It's built on how we organize our specific knowledge, beliefs, and mental operations. It perfectly explains why two people who are the exact same age can process the exact same situation completely differently. This brilliantly illustrates another core component of our self-awareness, our needs. Abraham Maslow's famous 5-level hierarchy maps out our fundamental human drives, from basic physiological safety at the very bottom all the way up to self-actualization at the peak. Recognizing where you currently sit on this pyramid is incredibly crucial because your unfulfilled needs heavily dictate your daily habits and your emotions. Section 3, the Johari Window framework. So now that we know what self-awareness is and what drives it, we need a practical tool to discover our hidden potential. Think of this as a literal window you're looking through. The Johari Window uses 4 distinct quadrants to show how our strengths and weaknesses are perceived by ourselves versus how they're perceived by others. It essentially maps out what is known and what is unknown. These quadrants literally define your persona. Quadrant 1 is your public self, which are attributes everyone can clearly see. Quadrant 2 is your private self, which are the things you cautiously hide from the world. But Quadrant 3 is where it gets really interesting, the blind self. These are characteristics everyone else notices about you, but you are completely oblivious to. And finally, Quadrant 4 is the undiscovered self, traits neither you nor others have found yet. Taking the time to objectively fill this out forces a deeply honest understanding of who you actually are. Section 4, the power of self-regulation.
But look, awareness without action is totally incomplete. Just knowing your flaws doesn't fix them. We need self-regulation, which is the capacity to actively alter your behavior. So how do we learn this? Well, Albert Bandura's social learning theory shows that we observe our environment, identify an ideal, and then pattern our behaviors after them. For this to actually work, it requires 4 things: paying attention, retaining the information, actually having the physical ability to reproduce the behavior, and finally having the motivation to do it. Essentially, we learn to regulate by imitating the ideals around us.
And this builds perfectly into Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory. They explain that we all have psychological needs that drive our self-motivation: competence, relatedness, and autonomy. When these needs are met, we truly thrive.
Self-determination is the ability to endorse your own actions and confidently say, I chose to do this. It gives us a profound sense of freedom to grow and pursue what genuinely vitalizes us.
Section 5. Practicing active self-regulation.
So how do we apply all of this back in the external world? Self-regulation isn't just some innate trait you're born with. It's a repeatable process. It happens in 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is forethought, which is setting standards and goals before you act. Phase 2 is performance control, which means actively using strategies during a task to reach success. And Phase 3 is self-reflection, where you systematically compare your actual outcomes against the goals you set way back in Phase 1.
What does this actually look like in your day-to-day life? Well, it starts with identifying specific behavior patterns. From there, you can create positive reinforcement using small, reasonable rewards. You really have to consciously observe the frequency of your behaviors and correct the negative ones the exact moment they happen. By actively doing this, you'll start catching the stimuli that trigger your bad habits, you'll challenge your defeatist attitudes, and you will permanently change how you respond to stress.
Section 6. Unlocking your leadership potential.
And here we are at the culmination of our explainer. You are now standing at the leadership crossroads, prepared for the ultimate application of everything we've just discussed. Now that you understand the true foundations of competence in the modern workplace are deeply personal, I want to leave you with a vital question to think about. How will self-awareness and self-regulation help you navigate your own leadership journey? What specific blind spots or behaviors will you start watching out for today? Reflect on that, and you'll be well on your way to true personal leadership. Thanks for joining this explainer.